Hey guys, I just had my first day as an art teacher today, and it was definitely a very different experience being the conductor of other painters for a change. Something I'm definitely not used to. And I'm not exactly an art teacher, even though I'm trying to give them some tips and things that can help them grow as painters. But I thought I'd do an audio log just for each day that I do this, because I do this for 7 days for each Saturday. That's coming up into July. And today was just it was a little scary for me because I had no idea what I was doing. I just sort of had to make up the process as I went along, because really I didn't know who my students were. It's just a very loose painting workshop, which is what I think separates it from being a painting class. To me, a painting workshop is more of just motivating your fellow painters to paint, to learn trial and error on their own. Just as long as they keep working, they will learn how to use paint. So today I came semi-prepared with a suggestive material list of just what primary colors they can buy, what kind of secondary colors, what kind of brushes and such they can pick up if they wish. But a lot of them came pretty, I'd say, decently prepared for it. So I was pretty impressed with that. I didn't really know if I was going to have students who had nothing at all. So I did come with some sample paints that would have the primary colors, white and black as well, which we didn't really use that much. And I just wanted to also learn like what they had come to learn for me from what they wanted to accomplish by attending this workshop. So I made a little questionnaire with like 4 short questions, just asking them what do they want to learn to paint, what kind of approaches and techniques they might want to learn, what subject matter most interests them. And a lot of them said like abstract and surrealism. One person said like animals, landscapes, and objects, I think. And that's not like it's the odd vote out, because I only had 4 students. So it's pretty general control of the class. I don't really have to keep track of so many people. So anyway, I with just the subject matter being animals, landscapes, and objects, you can put that in front of the same people who want to do surrealism and abstract, and they'll do something all the same, because surrealism can do all sorts of things, especially with if you want to learn to be painting general objects and things like that. So after learning that, I put on some music and had them paint just from instinct out of their head for about 45 minutes maybe. And I just said, okay, the main rules of this is use yellow as your light source, red as your gray area, and blue as your shade, your shadows, and try to use that as minimalistically as possible. And if you need to have a blue object in there, go ahead and put it in. I mean, really, there's no rules. There's no rules in painting. It's evolved to a point where really you are the only one who makes the rules. Whoever's making the painting has the rules, not the instructor usually. I mean, this isn't a class, as I said. It's a workshop. So really, they can do whatever they want for the first class. So I had them paint for about 45 minutes, and they definitely showed just how they approach it with such a limited amount of time, a limited palette, and I'm trying to think what they did. Oh, and I also have one student who's doing oils, who's more of an advanced student, because really this isn't all beginners. There's like maybe one beginner who has barely painted in their life. One other student is recovering from a shoulder injury and is wearing a sling, so she can't use her right arm, which is, that's the arm she uses. She's right-handed. So she's using her left hand. The first painting she did it in the right hand and wasn't sure what she was doing, and she had sort of this, a concept of an object of just she wasn't sure what she wanted to paint yet. Another student did like an eye, and it was actually a pretty convincing eye for a student who says they've never painted before, but she had some drawing background, so I knew that would definitely help her, because that's how I approach painting. I approach painting from a drawer point of view, and that's how my approach is. The other student is learning to be a graphic designer, and this student made like a fiery giraffe horse, and it came out pretty well. Just pretty much the white background still there. A lot of them didn't really tackle a background, which is something I wonder if I'll break. But really, this was what I called a throwaway painting. It's just a warm-up. And I'm not saying these are garbage, but I mean, like the eyeball and the giraffe and stuff, you definitely keep that stuff. It's not like it's totally junk. They came out pretty well. The oil painter made a very standard orange, I believe, and showed the secondary colors by mixing the primaries. So they are able to see how oil painting can be done if they ever want to venture into that. So the first round, I would say there's 2 rounds of painting. The first round, you can see how they approach it, whether or not they're quick about it, whether they make decisions pretty quickly, and how they use their sense of colors and lights and tones. So we had a small critique and just sort of talked about each one, and I just kind of told them what kind of things I've learned make acrylics pop out, if you want to be more in the painterly era, or if you want to do something a little bit more convincing in shapes and forms. And finally, I think I also painted some quickie picture myself, which looked kind of like a city in a cubist sort of fashion. And after the critique, I said, okay, this is round 2. After what we've talked about, and I kind of discussed with them how they get hung up on details and stuff, and they really just have to throw the paint on the surface first for them to see what possibilities can come from it. Because sometimes you just gotta let the paint do what it does, because the paint has sort of a growing, it has an evolution of its own. How it mixes with other colors, how the brush strokes occur with it. Because there is a bit of randomness when it comes to applying painting, and sometimes you just have to let the painting be a painting, and that's usually its strongest feature. So with round 2, we painted a little bit more, and I made mine a little bit more abstract, and I came up with this sort of abstract blob concept, which I think I might turn into a series, because it's something I've thought about for a long time, and I finally was able to try it for once, and it's mildly interesting. I don't know, it's something I wouldn't say is my best work, but definitely worth the venture, I would say, because I have some ideas of making these colorful abstracts really activate as a very symmetrical, but it has some variety in its symmetry, if that makes any sense. But anyway, when they did round 2, the left hand, the one with the sling, was painting with her left hand, and she made this much more playful, much more evolved picture. And then she randomly put an olive in there, and I thought that was a good sign, because now she's just sort of putting paint down instead of just worrying about it, instead of just, I'm not sure what to paint. The other student made more of she painted a picture with a frame with a swing set in it in this painting. It was like a painting of a painting of a swing set inside a frame, and she tried to mimic the wood texture of the frame, and And I thought it was a good approach because I think the sky was the most impressive part about it. The other student who did the fire giraffe, who I joked about and called it the fourth giraffe of the apocalypse because it was just kind of funny. And she did like two pictures. She did one that was sort of like a caricature of sort of what you would think of like maybe a 1950s or 1960s, I think 1950s style, like a woman's head, and you could see like the hair had some texture in it, but it was a very flat picture, and she just sort of made like a aura or a halo that kind of went all the way around the head, and then she didn't know what to do with it, and I said, go ahead and just step back from the picture. If you're not sure where to go with it, you don't know if you're gonna do something that might ruin its simplicity. So she just kind of stepped back. I gave her another poster board, and she made a tree. And finally, the oil painter made more of a cityscape. And I think also the one with the olive also had sort of a cityscape approach to it. And I think it's because they saw mine, and then suddenly they were thinking of cityscapes. So I kind of think that's funny. But yeah, the oil painter, she was showing techniques of like scratching out paintings to get the light back, and it was definitely given an example of how when you lose the light to a picture, it's really hard to get it back. So by the end of that, I kind of showed him a few things with the abstract that I was trying to do, but I don't think my abstract quite made the examples that I wanted to show them. I wanted to show them like the smear technique, where you take sort of a watery acrylic and a more of a buttery acrylic, and you smear them together, and it makes this really nice streak. I put like very thick liquids of the paint down, and told them that they just have to let that dry, and it'll have a very nice like three-dimensional texture to it. And I guess just I tried to make the example of sometimes when you have very limited time, you just have to throw everything on it and just kind of mold it into something that works. So I think that's pretty much everything that I did today for my first class. I gave them a homework assignment to bring 3 still life objects that they would be interested in painting when they bring them to class. And I said, I'm going to do something a little different than you think of just a normal still life. So since they told me what kind of thing they want to do with like abstract surrealism and things revolving around objects, landscapes, and animals, so I think I have a good idea of how to really make a schedule for the next 6 Saturdays to come. And I try to be real loose about it. I try to have positive energy when I'm an art conductor, an art instructor, because that's definitely how you want them to. You want them to kind of have the same energy, the same enthusiasm to paint and stuff. So I tried to keep a positive attitude with my students, and I think overall they did rather well, and they seemed to enjoy it pretty well. And I laughed that one student said, "Thank you for not making us paint the color wheel." And I just want to say again, you're welcome. Because I remember it's not fun. And you know the color wheel. You can go to the store and buy a color wheel. You can go online and find different ways of looking at the color wheel. You don't really need to paint it to understand it. And all I did was just kind of give them a sample kit of just red, yellow, and blue, and they seemed to understand it pretty well. I told them that using white and black should be very sparingly, unless you absolutely need to use white and absolutely need to use black. But black should be more of like an outline color or a mild touch of shadow. And white is the same thing, where you have to just kind of, you have to place it mildly in places, otherwise it just becomes too sterile. But it's not that those are, absolutely last solutions, because some people find very interesting ways to use them. Like I said with the smearing technique, you never know what the what the artist has intentions of doing with each of these. But I just want to say that was my first day, and I think it went over rather well. I've got to burn another CD that will last about an hour, and it keeps their energy flowing. And I think what I gave them, I sort of made like a mixed CD, and it was like a bunch of songs from Sirkin, and the energy just kind of flows real nicely with that. Very electronic, instrumental kind of music. I thought that worked rather well. Can't think of too much else to say. I had a lot of things that I tried to say in the class that I hoped would kind of leave an impression for them to understand and apply to their pictures, and maybe they did, and I just didn't catch on. But they were starting to use more of a texture of when you see the brush strokes in a painting, and that gives it more of a vitality, as I always say. It gives it more of like a blood flow. Because I think paintings need to look like paintings. They don't have to, but I think in the realm of photography and digital art, where things can be made to look realistic and very illusional to looking like reality, when really it's, as fantasy as it can be. Painting just kind of has to be something more now. It has to be more appreciated as photography cannot replicate this. You have to see this in person to understand it, to understand what kind of presence it has in front of you. So, with the still lifes next week, I have things already planned out for that, and I hope that goes well just the same. I may have friends who may or may not join this class. They could be completely trolling me. And either way, it's their time and it's their money, and if they want to come and learn from me, that's fine, or patronize me. I don't know what they have in mind. But I'm looking forward to the rest of this this session, this next 6 Saturdays, because I think it'll get fun. They want to do abstract and surrealism. It sounds like it's going to be fun. So that's Class 1, recorded on June 16th, 2012, and I definitely will keep you guys updated in the future of my other classes and just kind of reflect how I felt class went, because I too am a student learning how to conduct a painting course. So hope you guys have a good weekend, and thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.